The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yes. Oh, there's, look at that. There's Jenny Beth even. Look at that. Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, the best day of the week, and it's August 25th. And today is a National Park Service Founders Day.
Sweet. Love the national parks.
Yes. It's also National Banana Split Day.
That was my favorite when I was young.
Yeah, really? I always thought it was like way too much. It's like so much extra.
Now I just use my banana.
Oh, well, easy there.
Whoa.
Massachusetts that made like double-decker huge ones. Like 3 people eat them.
Yeah.
So good though.
What was that, man? What was that famous ice cream shop that everyone used to go to? Started with an F.
I don't know, but isn't there a famous banana split that's super giant in Vegas?
I think it is that same place. I just remember this place as a kid, but I can't remember what the name of it was. Used to have one near the house. It's also National Secondhand Wardrobe Day.
Okay, nice.
Jenny, this is for you. Are you ready? It's National Kiss and Makeup Day. And it is also National Whiskey Sour Day today, you guys. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.high9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from whatever platform you are joining us from. And we're going to kick it off with Miss Jenny Beth Dills. She's the founder of Kind Cannabis and of Justice Served, a 501c3 that helps justice-impaired individuals get their life back on track after they've been victims of the track. It is none other than Miss Jenny Beth Dills. You're on mute, Jenny. You're on mute.
Well, that doesn't work very well, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, so park rangers alongside agents from the Bureau of Land Management have taken down a massive illegal marijuana grow deep within the Sequoia National Park in California. Officials say the operation spanned a staggering 13 acres and included the removal of 2,377 mature plants, along with nearly 2,000 pounds of trash and illicit infrastructure, all extracted by hand and via helicopter sling loads. That's not all they uncovered. Among the debris, a semi-automatic pistol and approximately 1 gallon of methamphetamines, a particularly dangerous insecticide that has been banned in the U.S. since 2009. Well, that's probably why I can't pronounce it. The site had first been identified in 2024, but the retimed cleanup only took place this year due to the chemical hazards. Park officials highlighted the severe environmental damage inflicted. Creeks were diverted, vegetation was stripped, terraces were carved into the hillside, and illegal campsites, kitchen areas, nearly 2 miles of unauthorized trails were established. So, here's the interesting part, though. It's not an isolated incident, obviously. Over the last 2 decades, nearly 300,000 illegal marijuana plants worth an estimated $850 million have been eradicated from Sequoia and Kings Canyon National Parks, and no arrests have been made in any of them. So this sucks. Shouldn't be dumping illegal pesticides and growing in national park lands. It's definitely a pretty shitty thing to do, but I do find it really interesting that with all this surveillance, and you go and look at the article, it's a pretty big picture. You can see it very well from a helicopter. I think it's interesting that they are choosing not to catch these people. I mean, I probably wouldn't storm into the forest with a bunch of people that are comfortable living out there, semi-automatic handguns either. But whatever, throw it back to you guys.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but these guys are supposed to be trained to do this, I thought, Jenny Beth.
I mean, these are park rangers at Bureau of Land Management.
And it's National Park Ranger Day. Look at that. Look at that. Interesting.
Well, yeah, those park rangers have a lot of authority, and you would think that they would if they want to really eradicate it and they go after the low-hanging fruit like these dispensaries and stuff. They should be going after, these illegal grows.
Mm-hmm. I think that's fair, Michael. I just wonder how much resources, how much that cost for them to do all of that versus,
Yeah, I can tell you in Florida, from doing depositions over the years, and this was probably at least 5 to 7 years ago, just to put a helicopter in the air was like $600 an hour.
Yeah.
So yeah, the cost is enormous for a plant. Exactly.
And then not to have any arrests. Like that's the part, you know what I mean? Like you want to make the arrest so that way you can at least justify the expense, because they're going to be putting money into the system while they're incarcerated.
Even if you make the arrest, sometimes it doesn't justify it. The only person I had busted by a helicopter in Florida was like the 70-year-old man, and he was busted twice, like, handful to a dozen plants.
Mm-hmm.
Got both of them dismissed. It was just seemingly so ridiculous, such a waste of money.
Interesting. What do you think about this, Jesse? You're an outdoorsman.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bunch of thoughts. One is I'm surprised that it's difficult for them to find. I would think that Sequoia National Park is one of the most controlled national service parks there is.
Jesse, we're getting every other word from you.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, there we go. You sound way better there now.
I'll just be right on my mic.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm super loud. I had a Discord update, so maybe the audio settings reset.
That's very possible.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the National Forest Service didn't find these earlier, and that they don't find them more often, or that they don't happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because of how much that forest should be patrolled. I would think the Sequoia National Forest has got to be one of the most patrolled forests in the nation, especially given the way that California is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's odd to me. Especially because I know I've been hiking in the middle of nowhere, 10 miles in the backcountry, way up in the mountains, and done one dumb wrong thing, and it seems like a Forest Service guy comes out of nowhere every single time and busts me. I was like, "What are you doing?" And that's in Montana, where you're literally in the middle of nowhere, very far away from anyone, and you don't have 30 million people all around you. So it's very interesting to me, that part. The other part is the pesticide that they found, that it's super illegal, and I think that ties into the story I'll be covering. There's a lot going on around the nation about Chinese grows, and about the black market side of Chinese triad cartels who are, seems like they're taking over the black market weed industry. So I think that I'm wondering if it was them.
Well,
doesn't look like it should have been super hard to find, Jesse.
Right? I know. That's what I'm saying. It's weird. It seems weird.
Well, in dealing with law enforcement, so I was amazed. We have one of a huge national forest here up in Levy County, a couple hours north of Tampa. And I guess it's one of the largest places on the East Coast where meth is made. And a big part of what they were saying, and granted, meth is a little bit different because they're basically in a car, and so it's easier to undercover.
Or a trailer.
But their issue was just the acreage that they have in these parks. Just so difficult for them to be able to really, surveil the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they said, it's just amazing they can't control it at all. And I was shocked by that. But so maybe it's just the acreage is the just difficult for them.
I'm not sure if it's necessarily the acreages. I think it's the terrain that they have the hard time with. You know what I mean? If it was the acreage, I think they could just scour the land. If it was like all Florida and all just flat land, as opposed to all this different rocky, mountainous, different type of terrain. You know what I mean? That it takes to get to some of these places. I think that's kind of more of the hiccup, Michael.
Didn't look that difficult, and they said they're maintaining 2 miles worth of trails.
Yeah, this is all very weird. I mean, between Cal Fire, which is flying all of the forests constantly and watching all the forests for fires, and then you have the U.S. National Forest Service that patrols and looks for this kind of stuff really, really hard. It doesn't really make sense that they would get away with you said 13 acres?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's huge. Like, that should be so obvious and so easy to find.
Well, the pepper plug says, we've seen Rambo, Jason, never draw first blood. But I wonder, you guys, do you possibly think that maybe law enforcement planted all this stuff so then that way they could go and bust it easily and then create their own headline?
No,
that seems like a really far stretch.
Really?
What would they get out of that?
Well, they get the justification for the existence of their enforcement protocols. Like that's that's how they
and park rangers, they're gonna exist no matter what. Like,
yeah,
that's absolutely asinine.
The National Forest Service should be doing this anyways. It's I know they do it. Mm-hmm. I know. It's an odd story. It's an odd story that they got away with this large of a grow, and they're like acting like, oh, I can't believe we found this.
Well, I mean, they found 300,000 plants in the last however many years, right? So, and Jason, just to go ahead and completely shut down that little silly comment.
That was just a question. Wasn't a comment. It was a question.
Well, the chat has spoken, and they both say, hell no.
Yeah.
The chat has spoken.
The chat has spoken.
Mm-hmm.
This just makes more sense to get away with behind the redwood curtain, where it's actually really hard to explore. There's millions of acres of really difficult terrain where nobody's actually at. The Sequoia National Forest is pretty exposed.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there.
And you can see that picture. It was like literally on a hillside. There was nothing above it. Like, not that hard to come down.
Yeah, it's an exposed national forest. There's only one side to it. It faces the Central Valley. It's not like it's behind anything. It's easy to fly copters there. The national forest is there. Cal Fire's all over it. They should notice, oh, there's a giant field that's 13 acres that has no trees in it or whatever, like it should be pretty obvious. Anyways, we spent a ton of time on this.
We're going to roll into our first commercial, and we are going to be right back. And we are back, you guys.
Coming up next, the High at Night head honcho, the conspiracy theorist of the hour, and one of our best friends, Jason Beck.
Conspiracies are up 9.5 to 10 right now, just so you know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, man, Michael, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, Michael. This is a super, super interesting story that I stumbled upon this morning because the Supreme Court faces decisions on marijuana, you guys. And this is exactly what we have been waiting for, you guys. I've been waiting for a story like this. The U.S. Supreme Court is facing decisions in 2 cases dealing with marijuana in the coming months. The 2 cases the Supreme Court has been asked to weigh in on could have further implications for marijuana users or producers. One case asked the High Court to rule on whether marijuana users can be in possession of firearms, shoot 'em up, bang, bang, while the other is a more broad challenge to the federal regulations on marijuana. The Supreme Court justices have been asked to take up 2 marijuana-related cases, U.S. versus Hamani and Cannab provisions versus Barney. The U.S. versus Hamani deals with whether the federal law prohibiting anyone who is using any controlled substance, which would include marijuana, from purchasing a firearm. The Department of Justice has asked for the case to be taken up by the court. Cannab provisions versus Bondi deals with whether the Controlled Substances Act violates the Fifth Amendment's due process clause, and a writ of certiorari has been filed asking the court to consider it. Michael McAuliffe, a former federal prosecutor and former elected state attorney, told Newsweek that the core issues being litigated in these types of cases, in quotes, involve important but very specific legal disputes that are separate from the general subject matter of the case. The fact that the cases also involve a controversial topic like marijuana use and regulation is almost secondary, he said. Upcoming cases that address marijuana use and addiction and the prohibition of possessing firearms and congressional authority to regulate interstate cultivation and local sale of marijuana are fundamentally about the Second Amendment and the Commerce Clause. The legal issues at play in these cases don't require much judgment or passing or phrasing about marijuana itself, he said. And as a result, it's difficult, if not impossible, to match views about marijuana with the results of the cases, he said. The Hamani case, which we covered earlier last week, the Hamani case centers around Ali Dinal Hamani, a Texas man who came under scrutiny from the FBI for alleged connections to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The government has accused him of using promethazine and cocaine in a court filing, and he was prosecuted, however, for allegedly owning a firearm while being a regular user of marijuana. Hamani's attorneys have argued that he cannot be charged under the law because he was not intoxicated on marijuana when FBI agents found a firearm at his home. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals previously ruled that the law cannot apply to him because procedures does not support disarming a sober person based solely on past substance usage. The DOJ has asked the Supreme Court to clarify that regular users of illegal drugs should be prohibited from owning a firearm, and in a quote, they say, the Fifth Circuit's analysis also conflicts with the historical evidence marshaled above. For example, founding-era laws restricted the rights of drunkards, even during sober intervals, based on their habitual use of alcohol, Solicitor General D. John Sauer wrote in a petition for writ of certiorari. And an additional quote, and for about as long as legislatures have regulated drugs, they have prohibited the possession of arms by drug users and addicts, not just by persons under the influence of drugs. The Fifth Circuit did not address those laws in its historical analysis. But Herman's attorneys responded to the petition by highlighting that the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals made a narrow decision and that the DOJ failed before this court to identify any founding era laws or regulations that addressed the why and how of the restrictions imposed by the law. Americans who lawfully use cannabis under state law and possess a firearm are in violation of 18 U.S.C. 922G3 and could be charged and sentenced to a term of imprisonment up to 15 years. Under the petitioner's interpretation of the statute, millions of Americans are currently violating Section 922G3 and do so on a continuing basis, his attorneys warned. Zachary Newland, an attorney representing Hamani, told Newsweek that he believes the government is seeking to gain a ruling from the Supreme Court that any person who owns a firearm and is a user of marijuana is committing a federal felony punishable by up to 15 years of federal prison time. The problem is that the term user is so nebulous that a grandmother who uses marijuana legally under state law to treat her glaucoma is prohibited from owning a firearm under 18 U.S.C. 922G3, he said. that the term is so vague that it could be interpreted to prohibit individuals who use marijuana once a year, once a month, or even every day from exercising their Second Amendment rights, he said. Former federal prosecutor Nima Randani told Newsweek that the case gives marijuana advocates an opportunity to chip away at federal marijuana restrictions, she says. And the justices have been very pro-Second Amendment, so they would have to reconcile their stance with Congress's outdated marijuana laws, and they have upheld felons in possession restrictions. However, it is very possible they uphold the ban, he said. Interesting perspective. McAuliffe said the most interesting aspect of this case isn't that it involves marijuana, but that it appears to cut against the grain of the administration's position regarding firearm regulation. And in most other fronts, the Trump leadership circle has vehemently opposed any firearm possession limitations, he said. A panel of the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals this week handed down a ruling in a separate case that the law was incorrectly applied to a group of Florida residents that uses medical marijuana. And Reuters reported this, and the court ruled that applying the law to them would violate their Second Amendment rights. The second case was filed by 4 businesses involved in marijuana production or distribution in Massachusetts, which has legalized marijuana, and they have argued that the Controlled Substances Act is in violation of due process. This is a big one, you guys. A petition has been submitted, but is unclear if the court will pick up the case. And in a quote, "This case challenges Congress's authority to criminalize the interstate farming, possession, and sale of marijuana grown and sold entirely in Massachusetts, and which is not fungible with interstate marijuana. It's readily distinguishable from interstate marijuana and is responsible for reducing the amount of interstate traffic in marijuana over the last decade," the petition reads. It challenges the court's 2005 ruling in Gonzalez versus Raich, which upheld Congress's authority to criminalize cannabis, and they argued that many changes have occurred since the case was decided and to warrant its revisitation. Appellants allege that the express predicates of this court's Raich decision a comprehensive congressional scheme to ban totally the production and sale of marijuana, the danger that permitting interstate production and possession would increase interstate marijuana commerce, and the conclusion at the time that all marijuana was fungible, as a result interstate and interstate products were indistinguishable and no longer true, the petition reads. Romani said that the broader marijuana prohibitions will likely withstand the court's scrutiny, notwithstanding state laws that have legalized the drug, and they say, expect the conservative majority to lean on the supremacy clause and the federal government's current classification of marijuana as a Schedule I drug with no medical value to continue to enforce federal marijuana laws in the face of inconsistent state law, he said. And McAuliffe said the justices could hold that regulation purely in state activities like cultivating marijuana for local sale. It's or is subject to congressional power without any conclusion about pot itself, he says. And former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani told Newsweek that the Supreme Court has been largely differential when it comes to congressional regulation of controlled substances, including marijuana under the Commerce Clause, and even purely interstate marijuana laws have been upheld. The court has resolved marijuana cases related to sentencing and immigration on statutory grounds rather than engaging in public policy arguments about legalization. And Zachary Newland, an attorney representing Ali Danal Hamani, told Newsweek that the government likens marijuana use to founding-era laws committing lunatics to insane asylums, and perhaps this administration took reefer madness a little too seriously. The fact of the matter is that over 50 million Americans have used marijuana, and approximately 32% of Americans own firearms. And in the government's myopic view, millions of Americans are at this very moment committing federal felonies by exercising their Second Amendment rights and using marijuana, he says. And how the justices approach these two cases is yet to be seen, but their decisions may have implications for some marijuana users, and the Supreme Court term begins on the first Monday of October this year, and that is October the 6th, you guys. Well, man, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this, Michael Minardi. We may very quite possibly get a big win in some of these decisions, and just might have some radical changes for the cannabis industry overall. What do you think about this?
I want to hear Michael's take.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say, you guys want to go first. So we'll start with the first one, right? So interestingly enough, and I don't know if you guys covered it last week as well, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals.
Yep, we did.
Okay, you did. So reverse that opinion regarding gun rights issues. I think it's great. And I think, the ruling so far in our Supreme Court on the Rahimi decision and the Bruin decision have definitely, I think created a requirement where they should have to, and I think it's consistent with the alcohol laws. And really where the history ends up lying, I think, is, well, back in the day when our founding fathers they could, prevent people who are violent or threaten violence on others. That's why they upheld the recent Rahimi decision.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, they took weapons away from alcohol users who were intoxicated or under the influence. So that's really seemingly where half the courts in this country have come down upon, is saying, listen, there's no, precedence in history for this being removed from people who are not under the influence or danger at the time with. So I really hope that U.S. Supreme Court takes it up and they rule like they have consistently on gun rights, which has been pretty broadly, but conservative, right? Mm-hmm. Definitely conservative gun rights to protect. So I'm really excited about this case, especially having lost one case here on that specific issue because it was a federal one, Schedule I substance. So this would be an awesome opinion for all people who are cannabis users in this country.
And now, what are your thoughts on the second case, Michael?
Well, the due process case, I love it. It's kind of an argument that I make regularly and constantly for God knows how long in courts throughout the state of Florida. But I'm kind of in opposition because I do think there are some chinks in the armor with our Supreme Court on their feelings about the current laws with medical marijuana or with marijuana in general, right? We got Thomas statements in both the AK Futures case and the Sicily case. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, to me, and I think, it becomes a position of courage for judges, right? As opposed to a condition of fact, right? Because ultimately it comes down to the position where whether or not the government, has a rational basis to continue to criminalize them and continue it as a Schedule I substance. And I really think when you look at the plant, the 252-page report by HHS, and all the comings out on cannabis not necessarily being harmful at all, I think the government has a heavy burden to lift, even at such a low standard with the current climate. It's legal in 40 states now for medical use, and we have 25 or 28 for adult use. So, I mean, it's really ridiculous that there's still federal prohibitions on this Schedule I substance. So I think that there is possibility that if the court takes it up, they may rule in our favor. That's the big question. Will they take it up?
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with your analysis pretty much 100%. I agree. The question is whether or not they take it up. But I do think that if they do take these cases up, we're going to get two favorable rulings overall. Jenny Beth.
Michael, if they win in favor of the cannabis industry or cannabis users, especially in regards to the Gun Control Act, do you think that would impact the Gun Control Act overall? Would they have to rewrite it or refresh it?
So it would definitely have to. The 922 G3 case is basically declared a kind of unconstitutional, as applied to these people. So absolutely, those crimes would definitely have to be gone, taken from the books. As far as I can see, if it's only a basis of under the influence at the time, right? So, I would apply to all drugs.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm wondering, is because I know that the Gun Control Act of 1968, where all this comes from, any drug that's on the schedule, if you're using it unlawfully, this can impact you. So if this happens to cannabis, wouldn't it impact that whole category of that law?
It potentially could, at least, create arguments. And this is the one thing that we didn't see part in, was Joe Biden's case, son's case, get to the Supreme Court based on this issue exactly, right? So, and that's basically what they were arguing. he was, like there's definite proof that he was using cocaine, like at least around the time or whatever he was of.
But was he indicted for that or?
He was.
Oh, he was.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And was he convicted on that indictment?
He ended up pardoning.
Oh. So technically no.
So yeah. So it never went to, further up in the appellate chain from what I recall. But I think it's a great issue. I think it would potentially apply to all of them. Whether or not it's commission of a felony at that point in time while in possession of it is the question of whether or not that standard still stands in light of these opinions regarding marijuana. But it's a Schedule I substance now, right? So do they differentiate between legal use and, in their opinion at all? But federally, it's not legal. So, how could they necessarily do that?
I think this just highlights a bigger problem in our country, and it actually points at this Gun Control Act, which is like this broad stroke that applies to so many people. Like felons can't have firearms. Mm-hmm. And it's not violent felons, it's any felon. Any kind of felony that you commit, it basically makes you not a citizen in a way anymore. You can't exercise your Second Amendment right because you've committed a felony in the past, no matter what kind of felony it is. And then the same thing with drugs. If you've used any Schedule I or any drug on the schedule illegally, if they've proven that you've ever done that, now you can't have a gun. It's like this broad stroke, and I understand where it came from. There were a bunch of assassinations in the 60s, right, that led to this. And there was kind of this knee-jerk reaction, which allowed this broad stroke law to be passed. And this is where the libertarian comes out in me and says, this is overreach. This is government overreach and allows things to be inflated and puts us in a kind of cage as citizens. If you've made one mistake, if you've done one thing that the government doesn't like, they just take away your rights. And that just seems completely unconstitutional and totally against what America should be all about.
What do you think, Jenny?
I agree.
That's it? Interesting.
Of course she agrees with me because that was brilliant.
Oh man, nice. No, well played, Jesse. Well played. Well, we're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right into Mr. Michael Minardi. Mr. Michael Minardi is a lawyer out of the great red state of Florida and has been helping cannabis advocates for over 20 years with compliance, regulatory problems, as well as criminal justice initiatives. That's right. And you can find him at his law office at Minardi Law in the great state of Florida. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Hello, everyone, and happy high noon, East Coast.
Yeah.
We're talking about Florida Day and hopefully legalization being on the ballot for 2026. Marijuana moment. Federal judge gives Florida marijuana legalization campaign a win over state's ballot initiative restriction laws. Federal judge has delivered a win to Florida campaign to seeking to put marijuana legalization on the 2026 ballot, granting complete relief from provisions of the law Governor DeSantis signed to impose serious restrictions on signature gathering. In response to a motion for a preliminary injunction from the cannabis campaign Smart and Safe, Florida U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida judge ruled on Thursday that the state's law forces plaintiffs to choose between curtailing their First Amendment rights or risk invalidation of verified petitions, crippling civil penalties, and further enforcement actions. While the law DeSantis signed in May wasn't directly targeted at the cannabis initiative, you're right, there's been concern among supporters that it could jeopardize an already complex and costly process to collect enough signatures to make the ballot. That's because it would block non-residents and non-citizens from collecting signatures for ballot measures. Realize they really weren't trying to change the ballot rules until medical marijuana passed here in 2016. The governor had pitched the idea to lawmakers earlier this year, calling for changes to the petition gathering process that threatened to further complicate citizen-led reform efforts for a range of issues. It was actually a fight because he wanted to bring it part of the special session, and parties, leaders in the House and Senate were against it. but presented with a legal challenge to the policies from several advocacy groups, including the Cannabis Campaign. U.S. District Judge Mark Walker determined that certain restrictions are unlawful. The judge last month upheld much of the law, Tallahassee Democrat reported, but he said its latest ruling that preventing signature gathering from non-residents amounted to an unacceptably severe burden on political expression. The court said Smart and Safe demonstrated that it is substantially likely to succeed on the merits of First Amendment claim challenging the state attorney's role in enforcing the residency requirement. Challenge provisions work on unconstitutional restrictions as applies to plaintiff speech by prohibiting non-citizens, non-residents from gathering signs petitions by silencing the individual non-citizen petition circulators who are plaintiffs in the case and preventing organizational plaintiffs members or employees who are non-resident from engaging in the core political speech of petition circulation. He wrote that the restrictions could be enforced against the Cannabis Campaign as a chill on Smart and Safe's non-resident petition circulator speech, which directly injures Smart and Safe, sponsor of the marijuana ballot initiative. As of now, they've collected more than 75% of the required signatures to make the ballot next year. Smart and Safe began collecting signatures in January, making steady progress as it takes a second stab at putting the marijuana constitutional amendment on the ballot that failed in 2024. Activists picked up more than 50,000 signatures over the last month for a total of 661,000. They need a total of 881,000. They have to be selected from each district by a specific number, 8% in at least half of the state's district. And the campaign is already exceeding the threshold in 5 of the 28 districts. In June, the state affirmed the campaign collected enough for judicial review. The governor said the newest measure is in big time trouble, and with the state Supreme Court predicting it will be blocked from going before the voters next year. There's a lot of different perspectives on marijuana, said. It should not be in our Constitution. If you feel strongly about it, you have elections for the legislature. Go back candidates that you believe will be able to deliver what your vision is on them. Even though last year, even though it lost, it did lose by 57.8% in Florida. But when you put these things in the Constitution, and I mean, the way they wrote it, there's all kinds of things going on in here. I think it's going to have big time trouble getting through the Florida Supreme Court, he said. At its current signature count, the campaign has already succeeded reaching its first milestone. The state is now statutorily obligated to conduct a judicial and financial review of the measure that will determine its legal eligibility and inform the electorate about its potential economic impact. The latest initiative was filed just months after the initial version failed, despite an endorsement from Donald Trump. Smart and Safe is hoping the revised version will succeed in 2026. The campaign put in tens of millions of dollars, mostly by TrueLeave, incorporated certain changes into the new version that seemed to responsive to criticism opponents raised during the 2024 push. It now specifically states that smoking and vaping of marijuana in a public place is prohibited. Another section asserts that legislation would need to approve rules dealing with regulation of time, place, and manner of the public consumption of marijuana. Don't like. Last year, the governor accurately predicted the 2024 marijuana ballot initiative would fail, mainly because he got in bed with the hemp industry to work on fighting it. While there's uncertainty around how the state's highest court will navigate the measure, a poll released in February showed overwhelmingly bipartisan support, with 67% of Florida voters backing legalization, 82% Democrats, 66% independents, and 55% Republicans. However, conflicted with another poll that said there was only 53% would be supportive of it. DeSantis signed a GOP-led bill in June to impose significant restrictions on the ability to put initiatives on the ballot, a plan that could impair efforts to let voters decide on the marijuana legalization next year. So that's what's going on in Florida. Super excited about this. I think it's correct in law. It's something that I had argued on First Amendment ballot initiative cases when people got arrested for petitioning in areas that they weren't allegedly supposed to. So really excited about this and really wondering whether or not it'll pass, because I'm not sure. And I think it will really depend on what happens during this campaign.
Interesting. I'm not sure if this is actually is going to pass, though, ultimately. I mean, because it sounds like they're just doing a redo of pretty much the same initiative that they had the first time. They didn't change much in it from what the advocates were calling for. And so go ahead.
Yeah, not the advocates necessarily, but at least for what the DeSantis campaign and the No on 3 campaign was arguing, they did try to fix those issues.
Yeah,
right? The cultivation issue, the licensing issue.
I get that, but that's not the voters, though. That's not the voters. The voters are the advocates. Those are the people that are going to turn out for the polls, and those are going to be people that are going to be telling all their neighbors and friends and family members to vote one way or the other on it. And so,
I really think that there was a big divide between them and the hemp industry, and I don't know if that's going to. I think that'll continue to exist because everyone blames Trulieve for pushing all these laws in the state.
Yep, exactly. I think there's going to be a big fight over this. And not to mention too, there's a lot lower voter turnout in midterm elections, and so I don't know if they're banking on that, but I think there's a higher overall there's a much higher liberal turnout as opposed to conservative turnout during general elections, where there's probably a higher conservative turnout as opposed to liberal turnout if you kind of compare the two as far as number of people that vote during the midterms. I think there's probably when you do the numbers on those bases.
I mean, Florida was a Republican landslide last session. Electorate. So it'll be very interesting, and really I blame the Miami surprisingly region and area as to one of the biggest reasons why we potentially failed in that initiative as well. They were right at 50% or so, and we needed them at least at 55 to 60. They did a lot of targeted ads towards that, very conservative Latino segment of the population down there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. What do you got to say, Jenny?
I mean, to be fair, Crim Rivers and Trulieve did push the whole fucking hemp ban, so yeah, people are right to be pissed off about that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I have a hard time bringing those two industries together this election.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like if they would have at least put a parallel initiative that ran alongside it that allowed for home grow, I think they would have garnered a lot more support, and I think they could have probably pushed it over the finish line. But it'll be interesting to see what the numbers state on this, because man, it's going to be real interesting to watch, because I imagine that they're going to probably hit a lower percentage this time than they did last time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And so the estimate was like they couldn't do or wouldn't do two because it's like $80 million just to get it on the ballot, even running both at once.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, and I think the polling for cultivation it has been low as well, my understanding.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think you're right. They need to do something, and hopefully there'll be some changes at the top and people that'll be hopefully supporting this running for election in 2026. So.
Fair enough. Any final thoughts on this, Jesse, before we move on?
No, Minardi is the expert on Florida, so
yes.
I'll leave that to him.
Yes, the Sunshine State. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't.
I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John,
Is there a problem?
We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months. I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me. We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created.
Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees?
All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And Jesse, I got a text from one of our anonymous viewers letting us know what was the restaurant that had the amazing, or the ice cream parlor that had the amazing banana splits. Are you ready?
Yes.
Farrell's. Farrell's, yes. Okay. Shout out to Farrell's and their banana splits, man. They were so good. When you would walk in, they just had all the ice cream painted on the wall and everything. It was a fantastic ice cream parlor. Shout out to Farrell's.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app,
where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfers, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Yes, and we are back. Jenny Beth, you want to introduce Jesse?
Mm-hmm.
All right, amazing.
Okay, coming up next, a grizzly ginger from the Pacific Northwest, Gwen Barney's husband and the founder of Barney Design Co., Jesse Barney.
All right, thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate that. Smooth. All right, my story. That's not my story. I was looking at the wrong story. Okay, my story comes out of News Nation, and the headline is this: California officials raise warning on illegal Chinese pesticides. I think this kind of dovetails with Jenny's story about the illegal grow found in the Sequoias. A new crisis has arisen in California that has authorities sounding an alarm on the smuggling of illegal pesticides. Authorities tell News Nation that Chinese criminal organizations and other Asian gangs have infiltrated the black market marijuana industry and are smuggling the poison into the northern parts of the state. One official added that the pesticides are killing everything in sight and destroying the environment. A lot of the chemicals that are being used are hazardous to humans, says Matt Kendall, Mendocino County Sheriff. Kendall acknowledged that authorities are seeing a trend of large-scale illegal marijuana grow operations controlled by Chinese cartels that are willing to murder to protect their criminal enterprises. The cartels rely on migrant workers who are trafficked into the U.S. for the purpose of growing black market marijuana. It's also become common for these unlicensed cultivation sites to spray illegal pesticides onto the marijuana plants, causing enormous damage to the ecosystem. These criminal organizations use such a deadly, potent, toxic chemical because it absolutely keeps everything off their cash crop, added Lieutenant John Norris Jr. of the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. It keeps everything off their plant, he says. Norris Jr. warns that if California doesn't increase enforcement on these toxic chemicals, the environmental damage could take decades to reverse. Last month, Siskiyou County declared a state of emergency because of the illegal pesticides. Authorities in Maine, Oklahoma, and New Mexico have also reported the use of illegal pesticides on Chinese-controlled marijuana-grown sites. The Environmental Protection Agency has stepped in to investigate. That's the end of my story. I have been hearing about this more and more and more. I think we all have these Chinese grows that are all over the nation. Tucker Carlson just did a big special about it. It's apparently a really, really big deal that it would even get to his ears. And I was at a weed conference in Montana this weekend and was talking to a grower from Boston who'd been in the black market from a very long time. And he said the Chinese packs have infiltrated the entire market there and have driven down, even on the East Coast, packs are being sold for $300 to $400 because of those guys. So, and they're coating those things in these pesticides. They don't care. They just want no bugs. They want no problems. They want it to be easy. They're going to take every shortcut and pump really poisonous weed right into the market. Not to mention whatever they're doing to the environment around them, around their grows. They don't care. So it's a big problem, it looks like. So maybe the black market isn't winning after all. I'll toss it over to my fellow correspondents and see what they have to say about it.
Oh, man. You know, I find this story very, very interesting, Jesse. They're always, you know, I wish Yara was here, unfortunately, because, you know, he would totally attack this story and be like, oh, this is da 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 da, you know. But the reality is that the Chinese are doing massive grows all throughout the country, you know what I'm saying, and not just marijuana grows, but even with our farmland and everything. And this is becoming a big problem, and no one really wants to buy this Chinese booth packs. That's the bigger problem. So where's it all going?
People are buying them.
I was like, and I mean, absolutely. And once it goes from their hands to somebody else, it's not Chinese. No one relates it to the Chinese. I'm assuming grow, but China.
Yeah, China. Man.
I mean, this is wrong.
I mean, I understand that they've. Oh, sorry, Michael. I jumped right on top of you. Say that again.
I said it's the pesticides that are really the biggest problem about the whole situation.
Well, I think there's a lot of problems. I think that this profligation or proliferation of Chinese grows to the level that it's become is, you know, I mean, in Northern California, we've heard plenty about Armenians or Russians or Chinese and people up there taking advantage of the black market and getting on the land and doing things. And I'm sure that's been around the country for a long time. It seems like it's growing, and it's specifically Chinese that are expanding in this market, and they're really impacting the entire market quite a lot, enough that it's like I said, this weekend I was talking to a grower that's over in Boston, and he was like, the Chinese packs are everywhere. And they're driving down the price to where even on the black market on the East Coast, things are being $300 or $400 a pound. So that's quite a change, even in the last few years. So, and we know that just from the price. I mean, the price change, I'm sure, in Boston that's extreme. To go from $2,000-$3,000 just a few years ago, a pack in Boston would be $2,000 to $3,000 at least.
Yeah.
So to go from $2,000 to $3,000, or maybe $4,000 or $5,000, and now the average price is at $300 or $400, that's a big difference in a few years. Really big difference.
Especially the prices in their legal market there, right, with the taxes.
Yeah. So it impacts everything, and then you compound that with, well, if there's so many of those packs that it's driving down prices on the black market that much, what does that then do to the legal markets? And then if people are buying it enough to create that price drop because they're actually buying them, people are being poisoned. And then it compounds. Now you're increasing, because then they're just going to expand into more grows and expand into more, and prices are going to keep going down. Yep. And they're willing to use these products that I'm sure they bring from China or maybe somewhere else, but it's probably just produced in China and they just ship them over. So it seems like a really big problem that's growing really fast.
Hey, I think with it all, it just needs to be legalized and regulated. And rid of these trap shops and stuff. I read this article about Canada the other day. Not off days, and I couldn't make it, but it said like 80% of the people now buy from legal regulated stores and stuff, and it's like alcohol and stuff.
Wait,
what's the percentage?
What are you saying? Did you just say that 80% of people buy from regulated stores?
That's what the article said in Canada. Yeah,
that's total bullshit.
Yeah, that's BS.
Yeah, that's total. That's no way. 80% of the overall market is shopping at legitimate stores.
I don't know. But they have had a legal good amount of time up there to progress. And I gotta say, whenever I ask Uber drivers and stuff, usually when I go to different states, they all say they're buying from dispensaries, not from friends and stuff. So I think the newer generation of cannabis users are definitely going to shops and not going to friends and stuff.
Or maybe, I mean, Canadian weed has never been good, so maybe the quality level has dropped so much in the illicit market in Canada that that the legal market may be just a smidge better and more convenient. I'm still not buying the 80% number. I'm not. These people that quantify these kinds of numbers when they just pull numbers out of their ass because they don't really have a way to quantify the overall market overall. But this is all cute. Yeah. Jenny Beth, what do you got to say?
Oh, I like the comment in the chat that said nobody cares about pesticides until it's the Chinese using them.
Oh man, I thought everyone always cared about pesticides. That's why all these states mandate all this testing because they're like, oh, it's all clean cannabis. Da 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 da.
Well, we should care about pesticides, but
yeah, we should. And my son Elias, who's our production manager behind the scenes out there, he texted me and said, "This is probably leading to the proliferation of spray packs." And that's what a lot of this stuff is as well. And spray packs are the most popular amongst the 20s and teenage smokers who are coming on the scene. Yeah. And those are fairly cheap and very high demand. So I bet they are related. I would bet that a lot of the spray packs are these Chinese packs.
Spray pack?
Yeah. You don't know about the spray packs? I'll explain it. Spray packs are, I mean, it's pretty simple. Spray packs are where they spray stuff on the weed at the end.
Yeah, they spray terps.
They put terpenes on it, they coat it in colors, and they make it so they make like bright pink or bright purple, and it smells like bubble gum, and they put all kinds of terpenes and all kinds of coatings and extra THC and God knows what else on there. And this is kind of like if you go to New York, if you go to any of the big cities and you're talking to anybody who's definitely under 25, but even maybe under 30, this is more popular than normal weed. Yeah.
I mean,
there's a documentary out about it.
Yeah.
LMC, I forget his name. Jason, what's his name? Luke, yeah, LMC at LMC times LMC on X, and he's all over Instagram. He made a documentary about spray packs. I think if you just look up spray pack documentary, you could find it.
Well, you know, this is the thing. I mean, even Tucker Carlson covered this whole Chinese grow thing coming all through. You know, it was a big problem up in Maine for a period of time. They've talked about it in Oklahoma. They've talked about this in every pretty much decent marketplace that has been happening. And you know, I do find it interesting that this article did try to single out saying that the Chinese cartels will kill and when like all cartels kill, like not just Chinese cartels. like it was like they totally gaslit the whole thing. Like all cartels kill. Like what are you guys talking about? Just trying to make it sound like just the Chinese are killing for this. This is kind of little rhetoric right there, but you know.
I mean, they are doing really nasty things that it seems like they're willing to be more bold and brazen with their practices and just kind of in the community. They'll just buy a house and occupy it and clearly smell and clearly create a nuisance in the community or in the neighborhood that they live in, and They're just getting away with it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what blows my mind. I mean, I don't understand why we allow foreign nationals to buy land here in the first place. That's never made sense to me. There should be some really strict stuff behind any foreign national buying property in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you would think that the federal government would be watching you like a hawk.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like if you're a foreign national and you buy land in our country, they don't pay attention to you at all.
Yeah. Exactly.
They let you do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I don't even understand how it's even legal in the first place for that to happen. It's kind of crazy to me. And
I never have.
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing, that there is some action being done on the legislative space to prohibit that and reverse a number of these transactions too. So that's going to be interesting to watch and see how that all plays out as well in the coming years. But on that, we're going to roll into our final commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Oh man, your knee still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, you know? But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
And we are back, you guys. I have two final stories for you guys today. And this one is pretty interesting because a cannabis group applauds compliance checks for hemp-based THC products. And this goes right into what you were talking about earlier, Michael, in Florida. This is happening in South Dakota, too, because South Dakota's medical cannabis industry voiced its support for sting operations targeting sellers of hemp products that create a marijuana-like high. The comments from Jeremiah Murphy, a lobbyist for the Cannabis Industry Association of South Dakota, came during Tuesday's meeting of the state's Medical Marijuana Oversight Committee, and Murphy's association represents the state's 116 licensed medical cannabis cultivators, manufacturers, and dispensaries. That's a lot for South Dakota, I feel like, but, you know. The industry commends the Pennington County Sheriff's Office for its sting operation targeting hemp-based THC products at 8 Rapid City area smoke shops and convenience stores, Murphy said. Law enforcement brought samples of gummies, THC drinks, and other products with hemp-derived ingredients and strains of THC is a family of high-inducing molecules found in large concentrations of the cannabis plant. The hemp plant is a cousin to the cannabis. That's not true at all. They're the same thing that contains tiny quantities of THC. That's total bullshit. Total bullshit. I'm not even reading that part, but whatever. Hemp is legal to cultivate under the 2018 Farm Bill. Yeah, we all know that. But not the possession, you guys, because of products made with chemically synthesized versions of THC. The Rapid City compliance check followed a July 10th letter from Pennington County State's Attorney Laura Roselle to businesses suspected of unlawful hemp sales. Katie Urban, spokeswoman for Roselle's office, says the agencies are waiting for testing results to determine if any laws were broken. They're all going to get false positives because they're going to decarb everything. Sioux Falls Police Department spokesperson Aaron Benson said the SFPD had performed one compliance check and is waiting on results from a lab to determine how to proceed with one case. Benson declined to say how many businesses were visited, citing the open investigation. And at Tuesday's Medical Marijuana Committee meeting, Murphy repeated an assertion that he's used for nearly 2 years now. The availability of hemp-derived alternatives to medical cannabis puts the state's highly regulated medical marijuana industry at a disadvantage. Sounds like this is Texas happening all over again. In a quote, "Why do I go to a doctor and pay him? And why do I go pay the state to pay even more money when I can go to the vape shop or I can go to the hemp store and they're selling exactly what I need," Murphy said. The number of medical marijuana cards issued in the state stands at around 14,000, but changes slightly every day. And Whitney Bruner of the Department of Health told the Medical Marijuana Committee on Tuesday, any data point presented on patient cards is representative of a snapshot in time, Bruner said. Cards issuance has picked up slightly since voters rejected a ballot measure to legalize adult use cannabis last fall, but remained about at 14,000 as of this week, and a little more than 70% of the cards have been issued to people for the management of chronic pain, Bruner told the committee. Medical cannabis purveyors supported the law banning the sale of synthetically altered hemp products, but the law hasn't led to a crush of cases against sellers. Around 100 charges had been filed as of last month between juvenile and adult cases, according to the Unified Judicial System, and several of those charges were attached to individual defendants. John Peterson, president of the South Dakota Industrial Hemp Association, said his organization does have a problem with the rules on consumables. And in a quote, he says, "They passed the rules and we want to have only the good players in the game," said Peterson. With Dakota Hemp is one of 2 companies in South Dakota building hemp processing facilities, he said. South Dakota leads the nation in hemp production, and legally, hemp plants need to be tested and have less than 0.3% THC in a typical pre-roll smokable cannabis joint, Peterson said. You're looking at a 30% THC level, he says. In an additional quote, "You're going to want your money back if it's not that high," he said. And Peterson said consumable products with or without intoxicating properties were among the first to catch on, and CBD products, including products like lotions, are often marketed to humans and their pets for their purported health benefits. Hemp-derived THC products made when somebody will take it and process it down and make an unnatural compound took just a few years ago, he says. And in an additional quote, "That has been the industry that has financially led the way. But as the industry is taking off, we see the grain, fiber, and textile areas as leading products into the future," Peterson said. Speaking from from a booth at the Dakota Fest in Mitchell, Peterson listed off a dozen products from the Hemp Association brochure, including building materials like hempcrete and decking material. And as for consumables, Peterson said, "We're not going to scream and holler and say, 'You better let us have those back.'" He said he hopes that consumable concerns don't hamstring the rest of the industry, and says as long as they're not going out of their way to discriminate against the hemp industry, I've got no issues with it, he says. Well, this is kind of interesting because, I think there's only like 2 or 3 manufacturing or processing facilities in the country that allow for the, alternative uses for industrial scale products to turn hemp into these other different type of products. This guy apparently seems to be one of them, and so he's got a strong foothold in the game apparently, and doesn't really care that much if they're going to do this. But at the same time, it's all the same plant, you guys. It's not a cousin, it's not this, it's not that, it's the same plant. It all is the same definition in the Controlled Substances Act. It's all cannabis sativa L, and this just sounds like Texas 2.0. What do y'all got to say about this? Crickets, huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
Crickets on this one.
All right.
Keeping down agriculture.
Yeah, right.
And the criminalization to me, again, is a crazy thing. I don't know what their laws are, what they changed it to from the federal farm bill. There are 2 different things here that we should be dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I feel you. I think they're going to end up just getting false positives from these tests that they're conducting, these lab results from before they can make any of these prosecutions. And I wonder if their lawyers are going to try using any of those arguments that all these deliver a false positive, since they all use decarboxylation to deliver their result.
Yeah, I guess that'll all be on the attorneys who are representing.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll really know the differences between those things, because very few do, from my perspective.
Any thoughts on this, Jenny? All right, well, maybe you guys will have more to say on my final story for the day. I got great news, Michael. I hope you're ready for this. Republican National Committee, the RNC, selects Joe Gruthers as the chair, marking the first GOP leader to back marijuana legalization. That's right. State Senator Joe Gruthers of Florida has been officially chosen to lead the Republican National Committee, becoming the first RNC chair in history to openly support legalizing cannabis. Gruthers, who previously served as the RNC treasurer, was formally elevated to the top role during the committee's summer meeting in Atlanta. His selection came without opposition following the resignation of Chair Michael Wheatley. President Donald J. Trump endorsed Gruthers in July, saying he would do an incredible job leading the Republican National Committee to big victories in November, he says. The move comes just days after Trump said on August 11th that a decision on marijuana rescheduling will come in the next few weeks. And a longtime Trump ally, Gruthers has distinguished himself as one of Florida's most pro-marijuana Republican lawmakers, and he backed Amendment 3 and the 2024 initiative that legalized adult use marijuana for adults, calling it a common sense decision that prioritizes individual freedom, health, safety, and economic growth. Gruthers has also sponsored legislation to protect the jobs of state employees who use marijuana legally and has repeatedly filed bills to allow medical marijuana patients to cultivate up to 2 plants at home. He has framed home cultivation as a basic patient right. With his formal selection, Gruthers steps into the national spotlight not only as a key Trump ally, but also as a party leader whose record on marijuana policy sets him apart from his predecessors. Look at this, you guys. The Republican Party is turning green, and I can't wait to watch all the liberals just go crazy all about this. And, oh, man, here we go. What do y'all got to say about this?
Well, let's hope he exerts some influence and has some good things to say as a leader. Let's hope that he actually leads in this category and that it's not just lip service.
Yeah, and shout out to the Cole Memo who just threw in a super chat who says, I heard Jenny Beth started a hemp company. She did in South Dakota, apparently.
Jenny Beth was in hemp when there was still money in it.
There's still money in hemp.
Yeah, good money.
You know, I think it's great. Gruthers was kind of soft on it in his, he introduced a legal bill last session to include cultivation of like 2 plants for patients. They get a license by the state. And he banned public smoking type thing. That was one of his issues with the legalization amendment. He was definitely for it and supported it and worked with the campaign on it. He did a couple commercials for the Spartans campaign on it as well. So hopefully I can get to him and behind any campaigns we do.
Yeah, no, that would be phenomenal if you can reach out to him, and you know what I mean. I wish him all the best of luck. I'm happy to see that someone pro cannabis is going to be leading the Republican Party for once, and you know maybe we can get some good policy shifts as far as positions of the Republican Party overall. Because after all, cannabis consumption and whatnot is a matter of freedom and liberty and people's rights to choose the substances that they want to put into their body to make them feel better and whatnot. And you know, there's no reason that cannabis should be excluded in any way, especially when you look at the data as far as crime reports and different things like that. You know, overdose rates and things like that. It just doesn't make any sense if we're going to allow for all these other substances to be used, especially pharmaceutical drugs that you know only work for small portions of the population that are even the drugs are designed to help.
Yeah, and it's nature. We're talking about nature in its pure form, venom, which I do think is an inalienable right.
Interesting. What do you guys say, Jenny? Anything?
I mean, let's see if he sticks to it, Jason.
Oh, see, interesting. I see what you did there. Is sticking around, huh?
I'd love to know what the relationship with Kim Rivers is like too. So.
Ooh, that's a good point.
So let's see if this is going to be actual good cannabis policy, or if it's going to be very protectionist, Kim Rivers friendly policy, because there's been a lot of fucking donations made or something.
Great points, Jenny Beth. Great points. Any final points on this, Jesse?
Nope. I kind of said what I had to say. I agree with Jenny. This could be lip service. It could be Kim Rivers truly focused, and that's never been really great for the entire industry.
But truly, if it was all started on a kitchen table.
So, this is one of those things that remains to be seen. I mean, I've been officially in the white market of the cannabis industry for almost 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of talk on both sides of the aisle of actual leadership happening and never anything really happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then, we have this talk of or descheduling happening within the Trump administration and a push for that. So we'll see.
We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Yes. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And thank you to Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show. And we are off, you guys.